What is going down? It is that time of the week where the Spicy Squad and the Sourdough Squad link up for the state of the franchise. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Jason Aponte, how are you doing, my friend? I hope you had a phenomenal time with your family this Thanksgiving. Are you ready to talk about some 49ers football?
Always. And I hope the same for you. And you look like you had a lot of fun Sunday at the game. Sick of you guys going to the game and me just experiencing FOMO because I can't just pick up and go. If I want to watch a stupid football team, it's got to be one of these guys out of my window, the Giants or the Jets that I have to go see. You guys are like, oh, well, maybe I'll go watch the 49ers this weekend.
Maybe I'll head down to Santa Clara.
Maybe I'm just going to go to Santa Clara and go to the game. All right. See you later, honey. And just leave.
Yeah, pretty much. But while being there, we saw the 49ers beat the Saints and 13-0. It wasn't like the offensive explosion that we saw against the Cardinals. But before we get into the offense, let's talk about the defense because the defense pitched a shutout. What's just your overall takeaway of the defense this year and, of course, recently?
I think a lot of it has to do with just turnovers, man. Like this defense we knew was going to be stout. The 2019 defense was like that. 2012, they were able to get turnovers, but it's the impact turnovers. It felt like the Saints were in the red zone for the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And obviously the situations differ because the Saints were in 4-down territory. If the Saints really wanted to be jerks, they could have just took a field goal and snapped the second half streak, right?
And but I thought they were playing to do it too. I thought they were going to do it. They're like, nope, we're going to go for it.
But they're playing to win. But again, it's timely turnovers. It's not even just one person. And that's the other thing. Like Fred had an amazing game. Hufanga creates the fumble. Nick Bosa, 5th player since 2000 to have 9 sacks in his first 10 games. And then Tashawn Gibson makes a play on a pass breakup. Obviously, this has a lot to do with DeMeco Ryans, but yes, man, this team is just so good at turning the ball over, and that is more impactful, I would say, than keeping people out of the end zone because it swings momentum. At times, if you get good returns, it'll change field position. So what this defense is doing right now is they are turning the ball over better.
Yeah, and what is it? The second half shutout in a row for the San Francisco 49ers and DeMeco Ryans. Joey checking in says, paying my birthday tax.
Happy birthday, Joey.
To you, Joey, man. Legend out here in these 49ers streets. Running 49ers Hive, TikTok.
He got that buzzing.
He does. He's doing a great job over there. And, of course, shout out to any of the 49ers content creators out there. I know we got a couple in here probably hanging around. But that defense really is kicking into gear, and that's without Javon Kinlaw or Eric Armstead for the majority of the season. We did get Eric Armstead practicing last week on Friday in limited fashion. Today, we got Eric Armstead practicing in limited fashion. Do you think there is a chance that we could finally see Eric Armstead back into the mix on that interior defensive line this week against the Dolphins?
I do, and I think that was the plan the entire time. Don't put him through the Mexico City travel, any of that. The 49ers felt that they could do what they had to do against Andrew Dalton and the Saints. He's not Andy, he's Andrew because of that hair and that beard. But now
a red tint to it.
Oh man, I mean who's his barber, by the way? Like, my goodness, man, that fade into the beard, like even it's my barber who laces me in a similar fashion. I'm gonna start asking him questions about why can't you make it look like that? But yeah, I think there's a better chance than ever right now, and I think that was the plan all along. Or I think they would have liked to have him last week, but no point in putting pressure on him. I think you do need it against a potent offense like Miami. So I would say it's a good chance that he's going to play this week.
Do you think that his kind of being reinserted into the lineup is going to have a big impact, or do you think it's going to be just kind of like another good piece for the 49ers defensive line to go on with Bosa, Omenihu, Ebukam, guys like that? Or do you think he has an opportunity to kind of really change some things on that interior front?
I think it is going to be a big impact. The stat that I walked away with, and there were plenty of stats that could have blown you away from this game. I posted the 49ers numbers to the NFL average. They're nearly under by 60 yards against the NFL average allowed, almost 50 yards, rushing yards allowed. But the one stat that kind of jumps out at you is that the 49ers are number one in all metrics and then dead last in third and short, which seems to be the time when people are running straight up the gut. So I think Arik Armstead has a chance to be impactful in that way right off the bat.
Absolutely. That's a great stat. And also, not only that, but it could help get some double teams going on that interior, keep those offensive linemen off those linebackers. I mean, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Aziz Al-Shire. I know you and I are both big Aziz fans. Of course, Fred Warner, but Dre Greenlaw is really having a phenomenal year. And when you look at all three of them together, hell, even throw in Oren Burks or DFF, who are contributing on special teams or coming in here or there. Would you say this is the best linebacking core in the NFL? It really feels like it.
It's been. And anybody who wants to throw out other ones, Indianapolis Colts, people want to throw out because of Shaq Leonard. I still can't. I cannot get used to that Shaq Leonard thing.
I know.
It's still Darius for me, but I know
it's Darius for me too. But
yeah,
it's kind of like the Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward thing. It's like I'm still stuck in between it.
Right, and the Bucks, Devin White, like Levante David. But yeah, it's this lineup. And when we talked about this in the offseason, because PFF actually, fit my narrative by saying this is the best linebacker, trio in the league. My contention was that it's the best linebacker trio because of Aziz Al-Shire being the third one, right? Like he's a starter on so many teams, but there's no questions asked that Dre Greenlaw is playing out of his mind right now, cut down on the penalties and firing around on the ball. Like it just seems like him and Hufanga are just shot out of cannons whenever they're headed for the ball, man. It's and Fred Warner, man. Can we talk about Fred Warner real quick? I think it just gets lost in the sauce.
A little bit.
Seven combined tackles, a quarterback hit, a forced fumble, 2 passes defensed. Like, talk about stuffing the stat sheet, literally being everywhere, man. I think we just are so used to Fred doing so well that when he goes on these heaters, we almost are just like, well, that's just Fred. Still needs to be celebrated. So, yeah, this linebacker.
We start chirping when he's not playing at the all-pro level. We're like, wait, what is Fred doing? He's not playing like all-pro Fred. What's going on here? What is something going on? What is it? But when he starts playing at that level, it's just like, oh, that's normal. That's LB1. Like, it's par for the course. It's like you only start hear people talking about Fred when he's not performing as LB1, which is maybe a backhanded compliment to him just because people expect him to play at such a high standard all the time, because I truly believe this year for sure, I know he started a little slow, but since he's picked it up, he is definitely, I can't look at any middle linebacker in the NFL that is playing at as high and a consistent level as him.
Let's also get outraged. 8th in Pro Bowl voting on inside
Ninth,
linebackers.
Jason.
Ninth. So there's 8 other linebackers that people prefer. Look, I don't care because the 49ers won't be playing in the Pro Bowl. They'll be playing in the game after.
Ooh, Cook.
Ooh, you like that? Yeah. Okay.
I did.
I don't care, but come on. Let's wake the hell up, man. Like, NFL fans seem to be very casual at this point right now with that take. Like 8 linebackers. If he was 2nd, I'd be mad. 8th, I'm furious. Like it's ridiculous.
Right. And I think, we have been focused on the game. We're focused on the playoffs. We're not really thinking about the Pro Bowl. So I think part of us as fans can take accountability. We need to get out there and vote and do our thing and help our guys because, hey, listen, I know I agree with you. We're not playing for Pro Bowls. We're playing for that 6th ring. Like, Pro Bowls are cool and all, but that 6th ring is way cooler than that. However, these guys got built-in contract stipulations that give them a little increase, and all, of course, builds the legacy. And also, we know what it is. Pro Bowl's it's a popularity contest. So give the guys their flowers, give them an opportunity, go vote, get all that good stuff. But really, at the end of the day, we're looking to be going deep into January, February. And we're right in the mix now of December football. And it feels like we've gotten, at least defensively, I would say, I don't know what you think, but it feels like we understand what this defense is. We understand what they're capable of. We can pretty much project what we think they're going to do, and they're going to hold up their end of the bargain, right?
Mhm.
It's the offense, and I want to get your thoughts on this because against the Cardinals, I mean, we were like, I was so happy. I was like, this is what we've been waiting for. Like this explosion, all the different pieces working together, the rhythm, the complementary football, and it started with the offense. But against the Saints, only scored 13 points, and it kind of felt like it took a little bit of a step back. What do you think about the offense through 12 weeks of the NFL season?
Well, the defense, I mean, this is how we put a bow on it. I know what this defense is.
Yeah,
This defense
well
is
said.
dominant, and they're going to
Yes.
do what they have to. Like that, all of those numbers that they're number one in, throw in with the Kansas City Chiefs game in which they were out of sorts, injured,
Right.
blowing assignments, and they
V. Cole
still
Hardman scores 3 touchdowns on end arounds.
right. So this would be a good test because Miami's very potent, but we know what the defense is. It's the offense. This is what I wrote about on Niners Nation. Your deep playoff run is going to be on the back of the offense because the defense, you can set your watch to it. And yeah, a little bit of the red zone execution started to come back. Shout out to Mike Crocker becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate you, man. Some of it has to do with execution, but I also think that it's fair to give the Saints credit on defense for how they played. They played very well. Dennis Allen's a defensive guy. They got Marcus Davenport and Cameron Jordan back. The New Orleans Saints looked like a team, at least on defense, that very much knew what was in front of them. The Tampa Bay Bucks had lost earlier in the day to the Cleveland Browns. The division, if they win that game, are first in the division. It's the worst division in football, by the way. But who cares? Playoff
Right.
seeds are playoff seeds. So they knew what they were doing. I think they had a very good game plan. I think they did an amazing job of getting pressure with 4 and dropping 7 and making things a lot harder on Jimmy Garoppolo. So a little bit of it has to do with red zone execution. A little bit of it has to do with play calling. Kyle, I love you, buddy, but come on, man. From the one running from shotgun.
Come on, man, pick it up.
Come on, Kyle. Running from the one shotgun. You have the quarterback sneak in your back pocket. Come on, man. Come on, Kyle.
There's been a couple plays or a couple, I would say, opportunities where it's been 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, whatever it may be, and you got Kyle running out of shotgun. It's been an interesting trend.
Kyle, come on, man.
Especially when
Coach.
you got Kyle Juszczyk, you've got
Yeah.
George Kittle, and you can just go heavy and say, we're going to run it straight at your face. Stop us. I haven't seen that from him yet.
Yeah. Coach, I know you're watching, even though there's practice going on or something like that. Come on, Coach. I will say this. I love the 4th down call. Love it. Hate the play call. Hate the play call.
100%.
Hate the play call. If you need a yard, don't throw it back 3 yards to get a yard. And look, he knows better than me. I'm just, a guy talking into a camera, but yeah, it's a little bit of red zone execution. It's a little bit of play calling. It's a little bit of just missing on certain things. Feels like we're right back where we were aside from these other games. So I think we had another super chat before that one too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, look, why not put Trent at fullback?
Trent at fullback would be phenomenal. I would love to see that. I would pay money to see that 100%. Shout out to Mike for the super chat. Shout out to Green Thumb for the super chat. He says, shout out the SDS. Jason, I just started following you here on YouTube. I feel good about this game against Miami. Let's go Niners.
Shout out to Green Thumb Richie, man. And I feel good about it too. I mean, we'll get to the Miami portion of it. I do think that the 49ers have a formula and a way to win this game. Some of it has to do with defense, but again, to kind of circle back to what Brad was talking about, the 49ers are going to win this game with their offense. And I'll explain a little bit more in depth. But yeah, the red zone stuff has kind of popped up again. Credit to Jimmy Garoppolo, man. Stood in there, took a bunch of hits, like continues to get up, man. Like he's tough as hell, man. And I think we kind of lose sight of that. And when the running game wasn't necessarily working, he threw the ball 28 times in the first half and 9 times, if I'm not mistaken, in the second half. So it's clear what Kyle Shanahan saw. In the beginning, this is how we're going to sustain our offense. Shout out to Juwan Jennings. And then in the second half, he looked at it like, we need to salt this game away. That's when you start to see the guy who looked the best running the football on Sunday, Jordan Mason, at the end of the game. And hopefully he gets some opportunities going forward.
The hype was buzzing. We did get some practice reports. No Christian McCaffrey practicing today, but I think that is to be expected. As long as he's logging a limited participation at minimum on Friday, I imagine he plays.
Don't Jordan practice Mason, kid.
Yeah, Jordan Mason's. We love Jordan Mason. We've loved Jordan Mason since training camp, and we've been pounding the table for Jordan Mason to make the roster. He did, over guys like Trey Sermon and JaMychal Hasty. And that was a really cool moment because shout out to the San Francisco 49ers production team. They put out the mic'd up of Kyle Juszczyk, and you got a little glimpse of how hyped the starters were of Jordan Mason going in. Like, let's face it, the game felt like it was over, but it's not over till it's over. And they had to milk and run clock. And for an offense that had so much struggles running the football that day, like just really hard getting the chains going in the right direction, they plugged in Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason's pounding 5-yard gain, 6-yard gain, first down, and tough running, good cuts, good vision, good, all the things that we've seen. And you got to see the starters like, let's go, JP, all pushing them around. Like, that was a cool moment. And obviously the big injury news to come out of that game was losing Elijah Mitchell for the season, which is what it appears. They haven't officially put him on IR, but like you said, 6 to 8, that there's only 6 games left. So not a great trajectory for him to come back. So whether it's TDP, Jordan Mason, the 49ers are going to have to rely on other running backs not named Christian McCaffrey, right?
Of course. And that's the thing is there's a lot of discussion about, well, this is why you don't trade Jeff Wilson. If I could push back on that just a little bit. Jeff Wilson was effectively being replaced with Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell was on his way back. You invested a 3rd-round pick in TDP. And Jordan Mason has been active every single game day. He made the 53. Right. So he's valuable, right? Goes to show you what they really thought, what they had back there. So Jeff Wilson comes to the front office and says, you know what? I don't want to be relegated back to that backup role again. I have done too much. And you know what? The 49ers front office did him a solid. Also, in my opinion, when you can flip an undrafted free agent and get a pick for him, any sort of pick, and it was a 5th rounder, and people are scoffing at 5th rounders as if George Kittle or Talanoa Hufanga weren't 5th rounders, and his team doesn't hit on those better than anybody.
Right.
For me, I had no problem with the move. It's just a lot of people panicked when you see Elijah Mitchell there, but then you just don't understand the business aspect of it. And also, who are you supposed to get rid of to keep Jeff Wilson? Do you cut your 3rd-round running back that you just drafted? Maybe that's a miss. We don't know yet. No.
Right.
Jordan Mason's too valuable on special teams, so no. So the 49ers, it was a win-win. You do right by Jeff Wilson. You send him over to somewhere where he's familiar, can get hit.
He asked for the trade, right? Like
100%. And I don't want to be that guy, but I got people that were like, well, Debo asked for a trade. And I was like, are you literally trying to tell me that you are trying to correlate the best offensive weapon last season to a backup undrafted free agent asking for a trade? And you think, oh, because they said no to Debo Samuel, that you need to say no to that? Like, that is apples to oranges if I've ever seen.
I agree with that one.
But yeah, it's unfortunate for the Elijah Mitchell thing. But I think it speaks volumes to what they think of Jordan Mason, what they have in TDP, what they can still do. So in my opinion, I think it was good business. Hindsight's 2020. Everybody looks smart when you go and look back at things. Some people will say, well, I told you Elijah Mitchell was going to get injured. Okay, so you're victory lapping your take. Cool, whatever. But at the same time, you got to pick for Jeff Wilson, who was going to leave for nothing. I think it's absolutely good business.
Yeah, and again, I think the key factor in the Jeff Wilson trade is Jeff Wilson requested the trade. Like he understood what it was. It's a contract year for him. He knew he was going to get pushed down the lineup with Elijah Mitchell coming back. Obviously, the injury changes hindsight a little bit, but I
And
think
Jeff Wilson's
he
injured constantly. Also, he got hurt last Sunday. He's hurt a ton as well. It's not like so. Like, can we stop like making it seem like the revisionist history of like Jeff Wilson's some Iron Man? Because when he's pressed into duty, funny how that works. When
he
you
has gotten
when
hurt
you
a lot in his
uh,
career.
I, what are we talking about here at this point? So if Jeff Wilson was still here, let's just do what if right now. But Jeff
Right.
Wilson has to like do more, right? And he gets
Mhm.
injured, and you can't get anything now for him. Like, you see how we can do
And
what if,
he walks for no,
right?
you get nothing in return.
You see what we can do what ifs and all that stuff about. Like, Jeff Wilson was constantly injured when he was pressed into duty, and that's not his fault or anything like that. It's just the nature of the running back position. So it's just funny to me how people are lapping up their take without taking into account all of these other things.
Absolutely. Roman says, I really hope Mason gets more looks, especially since Eli went down and McCaffrey is a little bit banged up. I feel like that's going to be the running back they turn to. I mean, we've seen, I think TDP had 14 carries against Seattle in week 2. So we've seen TDP get some bulk carries, but wasn't ultra effective. And I think Jordan Mason, hopefully, I don't know. We know this coaching staff. It's been a running joke, right, on 49ers Twitter. Like what do they do? Like, why aren't they putting him out there? Like, what did he do? Is he in the doghouse? Like, is another one of those things? We'll see, but I do imagine Mason gets more looks, right?
Yeah, but don't be shocked. Here he comes. The do-rag's being laced up. He's putting it on before he puts his helmet on. That sounds like Tevin Coleman's music. There he is. Oh my God, it's Tevin Coleman. Here he comes down the ramp. So stop forgetting that Tevin Coleman is on the practice squad.
Every time I'm like, the door is open for Jordan Mason. They're like, no, not today. Just like the
That's
Panthers
Tevin
thing.
Coleman's music.
Tevin
My
Coleman
God.
comes bursting in like straight off the streets and scores 2
It's like
touchdowns. You're like,
it's
oh,
like
Jordan
Stone
Mason's
Cold.
never seen the field.
It's like Stone Cold, bro. Like, my God, Stone Cold.
The glass breaking.
The glass breaks and it's Tevin Coleman with the
it's
do-rag. Oh my God.
We just laugh so we don't cry at the
No,
end of the
and
day,
you know what?
but
All right, look. So let's give analysis.
yeah.
Kyle trusts Tevin. He's very good in pass pro. He knows that he
Yes.
can execute what he's asked to do. So let's at least put that positive spin on it. Me, I would love to see Jordan Mason more. Jordan Mason, here's the best part about Jordan Mason. The New Orleans Saints knew exactly what was coming, and they were doing a great job stopping the run, but they couldn't stop Jordan Mason. And like you posted the tweet last week of him running hard against Arizona, closing out that game. And I said, that man is running like he is going to touch the ball not one more time for the rest of it. And he runs like that every single time, man. So, I mean, there is a lane for it, but I wouldn't discount the fact that Kyle just has trust issues, right? He's like the guy who he allowed a bunch of his girlfriends to go out with her friends, and then he finds out, oh my God, she's been doing this, and this. So now he's got trust issues, and now he doesn't want to trust. Now he doesn't want to trust anybody else.
He's like,
So
they're all for the streets. I can't
for
do
the
anything with
streets.
this.
They're all for the streets, and I trust what I trust now, and that's it. And like, I have trust issues now, so that's it. So for me, I do think that a lot of what went into the Jeff Wilson thing was based on what they have. Third round running back Jordan Mason. They still had Tevin Coleman on the practice squad, who, if pressed into duty, which is something we all don't want to see extended reps from, can execute at least. We just need to find a way to hypnotize Tevin Coleman to make it seem like he can see the Carolina Panthers in front of him. And if we do that, now we're really cooking with gas.
Absolutely. Quickly, if you had to guess, because we know what we would do, I'm pretty clear about that. But is Kyle Shanahan going to bring up Tevin or TDP? Which one gets activated?
God, I'm gonna be wrong regardless. I think it's gonna be TDP, but I mean, I just literally just talked up the fact that it's
Watch
Tevin Coleman.
TDP and Tevin are both active, and he unactivates Jordan
Jordan
Mason.
Mason. I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be like Kyle. I'm gonna shake a fist. I'm gonna be like, well, you're pushing me, man. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's anybody's guess at this point. I had somebody who's a respected fantasy analyst ask me, hey, who's the backup pickup for after McCaffrey? Is it TDP? Is it Mason? And I was like, dude, I have no idea. And I was like, please don't like ask
Good
me. I was like,
answer.
I have no idea. I was like, I don't want you spending your fab on TDP to
Right.
have him as a healthy scratch, just to see Tevin Coleman take the reps. But yeah, Kyle doesn't like to give out anything, and he plays everything close to the vest. So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. My heart says Jordan Mason. I think it will always say Jordan Mason.
My heart says that. My brain doesn't say that.
Exactly. Because we don't know what Kyle's going to do. He's always got a trick up his sleeve. So we'll figure out what he's up
Justin
to.
says screaming into my Jordan Mason jersey.
The 41 too, legendary.
Oh my god. Yep.
Corey Soto, thank you for the $10 super chat. He said picked Niners to lose twice this season, ATL in this game against Miami. Haven't seen much from O
out of the division.
A division, and D is great, but Waddle, Hill, McDaniel will get points. They've beaten the best. Niners not one. Maybe that's a good transition a little bit, and we start talking about the good old
Miami
Dolphins and
Dolphins.
Mike McDaniel and Raheem Mostert and all the hubbub. But let's stick with the X's and O's. What are your expectations for this game? High scoring? Is it going to be a defensive battle? What do you think?
I don't know if it's going to be high scoring. I do know that the offense for the 49ers is going to be the best defense, and let me explain. The defense is elite. I think we know that. But the best way to mitigate the risk on offense and what they'll be able to do on the outside, Lenoir's going to have his hands full, whether that's Tyreek Hill or Waddle on one side of him, is these 8 and 10 minute drive. Go for it.
Do you think we see Janoris Jenkins newly signed to the practice squad? Does he get elevated?
No, because
picked off Jimmy Garoppolo week 16.
They'll put Tevin ahead of him. I don't think so, but I do like that move. And remember, you guys have to remember there was a practice squad opening because of T.Y. McGill. He's been playing well and he's been activated too many times. So that just feels like good depth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this isn't a Brian Allen situation. Sorry, I had to make sure I got his name in while we're talking Dolphins.
Or dare I say Josh Norman? I think he's better than Josh Norman.
Jack Rabbit, yeah, he has good instincts, and and he'll be fine. Especially with all the pieces around him. But these 8 and 10 minute drives that the 49ers have on offense, this is how you're gonna neutralize that high powered, potent offense on Miami. But you have to finish them with touchdowns. You can't finish them with field goals. Field goals are not going to get it done. So if you're able to 8 and 10 minute drives, but you punctuate them with touchdowns and you do what you want to do, right? And you keep your defense fresh and it keeps them in a good spot and you keep Miami trying to come back into the game, I think that's where the 49ers hold the advantage. Their offense is going to have to be the reason that they win this game. And not that they have to put up a ton of points. They have to sustain those long drives like Kyle Shanahan wants to see, but finish them with touchdowns. That's going to be the best. That's going to be the way to do it.
Who do you think has the better offensive coaching performance, Shanny or McDaniel? And again, McDaniel's going up against what we consider the best defense in the NFL. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with where Miami's defense ranks in that regard. Not good.
Let's say mid at best.
Okay, that's where my gut feeling was heading into
this. You can't play Kyle Allen and the Houston Texans every single week, Dolphins fans. Okay, so don't puff your chest up about that. Like I had Dolphins fans in my YouTube comments like, "What did you see? Tua didn't have to play the second half." Yeah, well, Kyle Allen and the Houston Texans are terrible. Like no one cares, right? Like,
that was bad.
That's terrible. He's throwing it right to them, right? But I'm sorry, keep going.
But they did recently acquire Bradley Chubb via trade. They got one of my favorite prospects, Jordan Phillips, the edge rusher. So they have a pretty decent defensive line. They still got not Xavier Rhodes.
Xavier Howard.
Thank you. and they've got Holland out there too. So
Yep.
they've got pieces on
Mhm.
that defense. But not as many as the 49ers at this point. So I think that's going to be one of the things that I'm looking for is obviously there's I'm a big Mike McDaniel's fan. I'm
Wilkins is good
borderline
too.
stan a little bit because when the 49ers were in that rut last year and you saw the offense changing and tweaking, I was like, that to me looks like Mike McDaniel, especially as the offensive coordinator and run game coordinator. And the things that they were doing with their Zorro concepts and things like that, I was like, that looks like Mike McDaniel. And I gave him a lot of credit for that. So I have a lot of respect for Mike McDaniel. So I'm really interested to see how these offenses look, especially with all the noise that's even Kyle's getting asked about it. I'd sense a little Kyle, just a little peeved about all the comments about Mike's personality and all that stuff. So I'm just like, I'm very interested about that matchup, even though they don't play each other. It's offense versus
No.
defense. I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see how it plays out.
The real chess match is going to be McDaniel against Ryans. Who knows one better than the other? And
Great call.
let me say this as well. Kyle Shanahan has a very good record of cooking his proteges.
Another good call.
All right, third good call. If you're looking for Mike McDaniel hate from me, you came to the wrong place. Let me take you back to March. Brad, Jordan, and I were at the combine. I am walking through to get my, you have to do the metal detector.
Security check.
Right, security check. So they look to the laptop, all that stuff. And we're on our way to the podiums where general managers were going to speak. John Lynch was going to speak. And that's where, I was able to ask John Lynch the question about Mike McGlinchey, right? But I'm done, and I look behind me, and it's Mike McDaniel. And Jordan and I were like, oh, no, we got to, and we walked up, and we said, and I was like, hey, Coach, we love you. Good luck to you. We cover the 49ers. I was like, real quick, what's your favorite Mike Jones song? And he immediately was like, Clubbing featuring Paul Wall. And I was like, Coach, I was like, fucking love you, man. I was like, go get him, man. I was like, go get him. And he was like, thank you guys so much. You guys have always been so nice to me. Everything. Like Mike McDaniel is the type of coach that everybody gravitates to. If you listen to Andrew Hawkins, I believe on the Rich Eisen show, he was, first of all, forthcoming with his actual football IQ, which is huge. Mm-hmm. But he talked about his personality. And that's what I got away from it right away when I spoke with him. He was so he could have immediately said, hey, man, I'm on my way to the podium. I wouldn't have been mad at him. He's got things to do. But he was so nice to even spend a few minutes with Jordan and I. And then if you guys remember, there's that viral video of someone asked John Lynch, during that press conference while we were all there, everybody's on the podium, about Mike McDaniel. And he said, look, we love Mike.
Oh, that's right.
And Mike McDaniel's like, hell yeah, John. Yeah. And it's just funny because I was standing right next to McDaniel. And it's just, again, football is X's and O's. Football is being able to lead men. But football is also a bit about getting guys to follow you and be personable. The way that Mike McDaniel is, it is hard not to root for him. Just take a look at what he said after the Chicago game, because if you watched on the sideline, Justin Fields was running all over them and he yells at him, hey, stop it. And they asked him, like, well, why did you say, hey, stop it? He goes, because he was scrambling and I told him to stop it. He was like, and he didn't accept the coaching and it was really annoying. Like, there's so many coaches that are robotic, say things that are cliched. Mike McDaniel feels like a person that is all of us, any of us. And I think that's what's really cool about him. I will root for Mike McDaniel every single week as long as he's not playing the 49ers. So it's just this week. But if you're looking for Mike McDaniel hate, you came to the wrong person.
Listen, I'll be the first to say, like, I never really thought too much of Tua at Alabama. I didn't think, I didn't spend a lot of time scouting him, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to hang my hat on that. But at first impression, first glance, I was just like, he just seems like another guy to me. I understand the hype and the winning pedigree and all that type of stuff, but he just seemed like another guy to me. And when he was in the NFL and I think he even spoke about this earlier this week or pretty recently. I forget the name of the previous coach that was in with the Dolphins, but he was basically
and it was Brian Flores.
Brian Flores, thank you. And he was basically saying, like, I was questioning, am I good at football?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. And what do we talk about a lot with Trey Lance? Building up an environment of belief, giving confidence, presenting an environment that breeds confidence, maybe for someone who doesn't quite have it yet. That's what Mike McDaniels brings to the table as a coach. He has the ability to not only scheme it up, do that type of stuff that you have to do, the day to day, the operational, and then go out and call plays, but he can build belief and empower his players. And that to me is the number one quality in a head coach. And that's why I respect McDaniel so
Yeah.
much, because I look at Tua and I look at the way he's playing this year, and I'm like, man, I got to give a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to Tua. He's showing that he's capable.
He's playing
But
very well.
right. But I also got to give a
Yeah.
shitload of credit to Mike
Yeah.
McDaniel, because you see their interactions on the mic'd up. Like it's easy to see. Like they're boys.
I was just about to bring that up. So it's during the game last Sunday, and Mike McDaniel's like, "Oh well, Georgia's the best SEC team," and he's like got the play sheet over his body. He's like, "They got Tua, can't hear me," like literally trolling his quarterback about the
Right.
Bama SEC thing. And it's just, again, man, all of this stuff doesn't feel too big for Mike. All of this stuff doesn't feel like he's in over his head in any way. And he didn't come to Miami with the idea of moving off of Tua. And I think you're absolutely right. Like him being able to reinforce that. And Tua spoke about, how important it is to hear someone believes in you.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, what Mike has done is brought over the same sort of offense, or the same exact offense, from San Francisco, and asked Tua to do exactly what Jimmy Garoppolo does. Meaning, get the ball out fast, get it to your guys in space, make sure that you hit them in stride. Everything's going to be yak. I will say this: 49er fans, don't kill me. Tua is doing a better job of processing the field. Tua is doing a better job of pre-snap diagnosing, but they're asked to do the same things. And if someone wants to say that Tua is better than Jimmy because we still haven't seen his ceiling, I won't argue that. But I do push back a little bit on the Dolphins, who want to push this narrative that like Tua is like far superior than Jimmy, but they're asked to do the same exact things. Right now, Tua has almost 200 extra passing yards over Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo didn't take over until week 2. He has one less interception than Jimmy, and I think it's like 4 more passing touchdowns, but Jimmy has 2 rushing touchdowns too to go with it.
It's pretty close.
It's
Tua
very
has
close.
19 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and that's really similar to what Jimmy is putting up to a TD to interception ratio.
Yeah. So again, like Mike McDaniel knew exactly what he was getting himself into with Tua. So I'm gonna reiterate this. I think I've said it all week on like every podcast I've been on. Scheme is one thing. Mike McDaniel's got that. The personnel to execute the scheme, that's about 35% of it. And Tua, Waddle, and Hill, that is something that is the speed that makes everything go. You can scheme it up and have all the right things, but if you have a guy who can't necessarily run as fast as Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, then it doesn't get executed to that level. So a lot of the credit, most of the credit goes to Mike McDaniel. Most of it goes to Tua, but you're starting to see what it looks like when you have the correct personnel to execute these schemes. And I think that's more where Miami is right now, especially considering their offensive line, even with Teron Armstead, is ranked at the bottom of the league in almost everything. Well, what is Tua doing? Getting the ball out faster than ever, because you can't wait around on those things. And coach is scheming around that. Mike McDaniel scheming around that. So it's all of these things into it. It's a factor. Like everybody just wants to look at roster up and down and just say that this is the determining factor. Some of it is scheme. Some of it is the personnel to execute it. Credit to Mike McDaniel and Miami. They're fun again, man. And that's cool. I'll root for you every single week, Miami. Just not this week. You're not going to get
This is a tough week, man. Like I really do like the Miami Dolphins a lot. Just like you said, Mike McDaniels is a real guy. And like, again, when he was with the 49ers, he preached a lot about believing in the player, not only just telling them what to do, but discussing and educate them on the whys and the hows. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. And of course, then empowering them to go execute. I think that's really huge in coaching and why he's seen such instant success with the Dolphins. So it is going to be an extremely difficult matchup. I think when you look at the schedule, I think I could probably speak for you a little bit. When you see that week 13 matchup against the Dolphins, I think we all kind of circled it. We're like,
San Francisco and Miami did too.
Yeah.
Both of them did.
Yeah. So like, and now as the season's progressed and we see the kind of entire landscape of the NFL, this feels like it has the ability to be the toughest game of the season, right? Like
Yes.
we're about to walk into a straight dogfight. Would you say?
Yes. Yes. This isn't, I mean, my score prediction is 27-21. A lot of that is going to be on the back of the 49ers being able to execute long drives and keep that offense off the field. Spoiler alert, guys, the 49ers are not going to shut out the Miami Dolphins. So let's just get that one out of the way.
Dang it.
The six quarter streak is going to snap.
Yeah, you're probably
But
right.
at the same time, this isn't a game that's necessarily must win in terms of where you feel the 49ers are going to be, because they're not going to play Miami again unless they meet in the Super Bowl, which,
Right.
whatever, anything can happen. But the 49ers have to take care of business against the NFC and continue to own those tiebreakers to move on up. What this game is, it's not a must win, but what this game is a very good litmus test for where the San Francisco 49ers defense is and where they are in terms of being able to bracket potent offenses, right? I think the Kansas City Chiefs game, we can kind of toss that one out because two things are true. The Chiefs are hard to cover, and the 49ers played a piss poor game in terms of coverage busts, and everything was wrong in that game.
Is a
Just wrong.
duality of the Chiefs were the Chiefs and the 49ers played their worst game of the year.
Yeah. So again, that one I feel like is an outlier. This game is going to be much more telling as to where the 49ers will be when they face more potent offenses. Because let's face it, the Los Angeles Rams are cooked. Ha ha ha. The
Bro.
Los
Their whole
Angeles
every main player they have is damn near out
is
outside of
out.
Jalen
Yeah, that's
Ramsey.
it. Just pack it up. It's funny how your season ends when you have all these injuries, but when the 49ers have that, it's never, well, the 49ers are injured. It's just, we're better than you. So, ha ha ha. I believe in kicking men when they're down, and that's what I'm doing with the Rams. The Los Angeles Chargers, didn't have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams in that game. Okay, all these things are true, right? The
Right.
Saints, it's still Andy Dalton. It's still, those offensive weapons and everything as well. Now you're really going to be able to look at this and say, this is a team that's coming in as close to full strength as they're going to be, somebody who really knows them. And this is going to be a good barometer. I think that's all it really will be, is a good barometer for where the 49ers are. But yeah, shout out to Los Angeles Rams. You tried your best this year. But yeah, I ain't going to lie. Y'all getting cooked.
Their season is effectively over. There's no shot.
Arizona too. It's okay. It's Arizona and it's Los Angeles that are sitting in the basement. They're doing karate in the garage right now. Good for them. I love that for them.
Oh goodness, prestige worldwide. But the 49ers, again, that week 15 game against Seattle, even though Seattle lost last week to the Raiders somehow, it's still going to be a huge game for the 49ers. But not to look too far ahead. With this game, I think you speak to it, pretty eloquently. Like, it isn't a must-win game, but it's like the same conversation we had heading into the Chiefs. Like, it's one that we want to win because I think this season there's been so many ups and downs, right? And more so with the offense than the defense, but as a team and as a collective unit, there's been ups, there's been downs, ebbs and flows, and we're trying to quantify still a little bit who they are. I think, we have followers or commenters or people who talk to us, whether in the Sourdough Squad, Spicy Squad, and tell us, like, who have the 49ers played? Who have they beat? And you lose to teams like Chicago and Denver. I mean, Denver looks terrible. I think you talked about it last week that Russell Wilson trade is like one of the probably worst trades in recent
Seattle,
memory.
they can't keep getting away with this. They can't keep getting away with this. They literally took those picks and they drafted studs at almost every single position, and they moved on and they got better. I am so tired of Pete Carroll, man.
Oh my gosh, that was an elite
Breaking Bad reference.
Thank you. Breaking Bad reference with Jesse. They can't keep getting away. And they got away with it again. And I'm sick to my stomach. But that's for another couple weeks down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with this game, right, we want to see like what this offense, defense, special teams, complementary football show us who you are and what you are against the best, right? Would you say that's kind of what this game is, at least? Maybe more from a fan perspective, more so than a team perspective, because they know what it is. It's a week-to-week business and things can change in a hurry. But from a fan perspective, like this is a measuring stick game, like you talked about, the litmus
Hell yeah.
test.
Hell yeah, it's a litmus test. You have speed on both these sides. What is Lenore gonna do now with these, with this test, right? Like, what are they gonna do? Like, it seems like Charvarius Ward has been staying on the right side, so I wouldn't expect him. And first of all, Mike McDaniel is not gonna peg Tyreek Hill on one side the entire time,
Right.
And now it really is going to become what's going to happen when you face in the playoffs the more potent offenses. The only other offense that they faced that has been as potent in terms of personnel, styles make fights, we talk about that all the time, has been Kansas City. And it was Seattle earlier in the year. Other than that, you can really make a case for the fact that the 49ers have faced Denver, the Rams, the Cardinals, and those guys are barren, right? Like, it was the Cardinals with Colt McCoy, right? So
Yeah.
It's not taking anything away from this defense, because I know what this defense is. And those numbers that you're seeing are not something that is just a product of their opposition. It's who they are. That's who they are. That's
Right.
who they're always going to be. But it will be really nice to see them be able to see someone who presents a challenge personnel-wise on the outside that has a play caller that's very imaginative, that understands the tendencies of that defense. This is the thing. Like, if Mike McDaniel came from some other place in here, we would talk about this game completely different. But Mike McDaniel is literally from here. He knows DeMeco Ryans. He knows what this defense wants to do. That's what makes this all so much more interesting. The chess match between, I know what you want to do, you know what I want to do, who's going to execute.
Does that give Mike the upper hand?
It gives nobody the upper hand. That's the best way I could put it, Brad. Seriously. Because you can make the case that DeMeco knows Mike, but you can make the case that Mike knows DeMeco. So for me, it's gonna boil down to who is gonna make the better call, the chess match. Who's gonna understand what the other is trying to do? That's what makes this game so interesting. That's what makes this game so fun. That's why this game was circled. Let alone the fact that it's Mike McDaniel, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, River Craycraft, Trent Sherfield, literally every single former 49ers
Wes
is going to be back
Welker, John
in the building. Wes
Embry.
Welker, like, and they're all talking about it, right? Like, so again, this game was circled the entire time, but I don't know who it gives the advantage to. I just know the chess match is going to be what I'm going to be locked in on. Who's going to be able to make the right call? Who's going to beat the other with their mind? This is what makes football so fun, is these things. Stylistically, can you slow them down? Can you make the right call? Can you put your guys in position if they are lacking in some way? Like Tyreek Hill against Diamador Lenore, I don't want to see that. I'm scared to death of it. Tyreek Hill has been torching everyone. That's not a slight at Diamador Lenore, but how do you combat that? How do you slow that down? Can you afford to send more than 4 on certain pass rush sets? Can you just sit everybody back and think you can do it that way? The chess match is going to be very fun.
I agree with you. I think that the chess match is probably the most intriguing storyline from a football nerd's perspective. But I think the average fan has gotten their interest piqued by some of the headlines that have been made this week. And I'm curious, because that's what we do here. We talk about the 49ers and all the headlines. What you think about what Raheem Mostert said, what Deebo Samuel responded to. Then Raheem Mostert goes on KMBR to clarify, and then Tyreek Hill shoots off a tweet this morning saying like something along the lines of like Raheem's got everyone worked up or something like that.
Yeah. What Raheem Mostert said about the 49ers rushing him back, I have no problem with that, because 31 other teams do it. I mean, hell, they did it to Tua.
Well, they're talking about playing Teron Armstead through a partially torn pec right now,
But I don't know if Miami's pushing for that as much as Teron Armstead has played through injuries.
I think Teron's pushing for it.
Teron's pushing through it, and he's done that. So let's really talk about this, and let's really talk about what's the difference. Teron is pushing the play for this. Maybe Miami is the one that's telling him, yo, chill out, you can't. But he wants to play, and he's played through injuries. It's a tough son of a bitch, Teron Armstead.
Hell yeah.
But this whole idea that the 49ers are the only team that rush people back or want them to come back is bogus. And here's why.
Right.
32 NFL teams, so many coaching staffs, general managers, front offices. This is a results-driven business. If you don't win, you're out. You can be the nicest guy. You can be a guy that everybody loves, but if you're not winning, you're out. So the 49ers did something that other teams would do and said, hey, we'd like for you to try to play through it. And I completely understand Raheem Mostert saying, no, thank you. They're saying that I would have a hole in my cartilage in my knee, and he has a family to take care of, and he has kids to take care of, and he wants to get another contract.
Mm-hmm.
So he declined and took care of himself. No problem with that. Okay? No problem with that. Let's sweep that one aside. This is the most talented team I've been around. That's something that we could argue back and forth a little bit. Okay? 49er fans, please don't kill me. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I'll take them over Debo and Aiyuk. Sorry, guys.
Ooh!
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Woo!
Okay? But give me
George
Kittle.
Spicy.
Give me George Kittle over Gesicki. Give me this 49ers offensive line over their offensive line. Give me Christian McCaffrey. And literally the reason that Jeff Wilson is not here is because Christian McCaffrey is here over Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. And Tua and Jimmy, whatever. I'll leave that up to you. So that part, the whole most talented thing, that's negligible. That's cool. Like I'm okay with that. Here's my issue. This is the problem I had with what Raheem said. When asked, what's the difference between the offenses because they're the same thing? Raheem Mostert replied with, we have a quarterback who can actually sling it. Now let's dissect that sentence.
Dissect it, because I think his response to it was kind of funny too, but go off.
Right. So Raheem, I'm sure, didn't mean for that to come off in that fashion, but there's no further context that needs to be added to that, right? It wasn't taken out of context. And what is Raheem Mostert supposed to say? I miss Jimmy Garoppolo. God, I wish I was still over there. Like I'm stuck with this left arm guy. No. But what Raheem did wrong and what he had to walk back, and this is where I throw a little blame on him, is you have to know better about the way you phrased actually sling it, because that implies the quarterback that you played with couldn't ever sling it. So what you did was you gave out a sentence that was allowed to be opened up and dissected and was open for interpretation. That's on you, Raheem. That is on you. Here's how you could have said it. I'll never forget my time with Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers, and I absolutely love what Tua Tagovailoa is doing here, and I'm happy to be here. Boom. How does that come off any worse than that?
Yeah, I get you in the PR game, Jason.
Hey, look, I have lived this long. I've been married this long by being able to spin words.
Married this long.
by being able to spin words. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, that was the only thing. That's it. Have nothing wrong with any of that. Jeff Wilson, his portion of the interview was boring. Like Jeff Wilson was literally, hey man, I love what those guys over there. I'll never forget. I'm just happy to be here. Like that was literal PR stuff. Raheem's mistake was allowing that one sentence to be taken that way and open an interpretation. So yes, I that's where I would throw the blame at him.
Yeah, and it's been well documented that, I think on the business side of things, Raheem's felt slighted by the San Francisco 49ers organization. His agent came out and requested a trade via Twitter and set 49ers Twitter into a frenzy, and like half the fan base at that point turned on Raheem based off that simple tweet alone. But again, at the end of the day, it's business. Raheem talked about the business side of it. They didn't offer him a contract. It was like pulling teeth just to get them to take his contract that he first signed, get it converted to guaranteed dollars, not even adding to it, just converting it to all guaranteed. Because at that point, he went from a special teamer to the literal RB1 of the team. He just wanted it converted. There was a battle between that, and that sparked the trade allegation or whatever, the trade request. So I think, again, what you're saying and what it's going to generate as a result. I think there's some truth to that. And I can't fault Raheem for being honest, but I do agree the actually part and hearing his explanation. He's like, I'm a surfer, man. I like to surf. It's just like, I just say it like that. I was like, all right. I was like, I get the first part. That makes sense. Then he got to the actually, because Greg Papa asked him about it on KNBR, and he said, I like to surf. And I was like, oh. It's like, okay, we know what you meant.
Raheem, My services for PR are available. You can just give me a call, man. If they ask you a question, I'll make sure I'm not drinking that day, and I will give you the exact answer that you need to give. Yeah, because if I'm drinking, I'll be like, man,
sober.
fire off on Jimmy Garoppolo. Let him know that you love Tua, boy.
So I personally have a lot of love for Raheem Mostert. He is a huge supporter of me. He's always dropping, like when we were at the combine, he's dropping in my lives, asking me who we're scouting. Like, I got lots of love for Raheem,
dude.
So he's always going to be one of my guys.
Raheem Mostert put on one of the most greatest individual playoff performances in 49ers history.
Right.
And 49er fans, we're passionate.
Yes.
We're angry at times.
Which is fair.
We ride for this team.
Yep.
But 220 yards and 4 touchdowns in an NFC Championship game that sent you to the Super Bowl is something that you just can't sit there and just be like, oh, well, who cares or whatever. Like, good. Right. Look, you can feel how you feel about what he said. I only have issue with the fact that I think Raheem is smarter than that, and he shouldn't have let this get to this point.
Fair. I think that's fair.
But do not attempt to downplay his contributions in the 2019 season when he was on the field, man. That the reason your team gained steam at the end of the season and was able to get to the Super Bowl, a lot of that had to do with Raheem Mostert. So don't let your feelings right now on this cloud and make you turn into a revisionist history person. That's it.
He's a great guy. Like off the field, I like to put a lot of weight into people's character and how they carry themselves. He's a great family man, cares very much about his wife and his kids, something that both of us can relate to. So I got love for the guy. I can't help but have a soft spot for him, but I do think your assessment is accurate. I think he slipped with the wording. He didn't really help walk it back a whole lot. I think he did with the first initial part, but I think he knew what he was saying with Tua versus Jimmy Garoppolo. And hey, let's face it, Jimmy's playing decently well this year. I'd say we're looking probably at the most and it's not like ultra consistent, but in regards to Jimmy Garoppolo, it's probably the most consistent we've seen him play since 2017.
Well,
maybe.
Brad, I mean, stats are there to be, pushed out there to push whatever narrative. If we wanted to, we could make a statement like,
what's the PFF grade say?
We could make a statement like Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't thrown an interception in 5 weeks. And if somebody didn't do any research on that, they would think it's 5 games, but the 49ers have played 4 games in 5 weeks. And technically that's true. Technically that's true.
I would have bought it.
That's true. So it's just, look, right now, Jimmy Garoppolo is playing some of his best football right now at this point. I have no desire to break down what's going on with him. Don't tell me about almost picks, because if there's Dolphins fans in here, I watched Tua Tagovailoa throw 4 balls into the Pittsburgh Steelers' chests and have them drop all of them. You know what dropped interceptions go down in the book as, Brad? Incompletions. That's it. So I don't want to hear about interceptions being dropped. And anybody that wants to harp on that, I would implore you to watch a little bit more football, just a little bit more football of other teams, right? So, Look, is what it is. Jimmy's asked to do what Tua's asked to do. Tua's doing it at a very high level right now. He's playing very well, deserves all that credit. But this whole narrative that Emmanuel Acho has started about him being better than Justin Herbert, I think we should slam the door on that. It doesn't make any sense, man.
Acho just got something against Justin Herbert.
You know what it is?
He doesn't like the social media quarterback. What is it?
That's him backing himself into a corner because he didn't like Justin Herbert pre-draft. And when Justin Herbert started balling, he doesn't like being wrong.
But he's got to defend himself.
When he uses something to push that, I don't like that. I would respect it more, Emmanuel Acho. I mean, I've had to do it with Talanoa Hufanga, with Dre Greenlaw. I've had to do it. Not that I ever said Hufanga was ever going to be a bust, but I said I had concerns.
You had questions.
He squashed those concerns. I don't care. He can miss 1 tackle, but as long as he's turning the ball over, who cares? So guess what? Let me look into the camera. I hope everyone hears this because this is the last time I'm addressing it. I was wrong about Talanoa Hufanga. I am very happy at the way he's playing. He's incredible. But the fact that Emmanuel Acho cannot even do that, and he's continuing to try to find ways to build up ways to talk crazy about Justin Herbert, it shows someone who is stubborn. And I think that's really where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and he also knows how to generate clicks, whether good, bad, indifferent. He's doing his job. He's getting people talking about it. So that's part of what he gets paid for. But hey, Acho is also someone who I think I heard the first nickname from him. One play Trey, I think is what it was. So he's got it out for Trey Lance. So we'll see how good old
And
Acho.
he's pushing the Jimmy Garoppolo record next to Joe Montana and Steve Young, right? Which it's like, yo,
Oh, so
Fox.
he's pro Jimmy.
Yeah, Fox knew exactly what they were doing, putting that on the screen. And
Mhm.
the
Oh yeah.
people that want to correlate that to being able to put Jimmy Garoppolo in the same sentences are sick human beings. You're a sick human being. I promise you for that. I promise you, you are. You need help. You need to look in the mirror. You need to figure it out. Because to imply that Jimmy Garoppolo threw 60 starts, by the way, he's missed 23 during that time also, which doesn't get, talked about, has a better record than Joe Montana through 60 games. That is the epitome of QB wins do not matter. Don't try to press that on me. You're a sick human being if you are posting that in any other way than saying this is why stats can be manipulated. Please, man. Goodness gracious.
Yep, tape don't lie. Stats can be manipulated, though, 100%. Corey Soto says, you want to laugh? Watch Chris Sims defend Zach Wilson to desperately save face. The guy who put Kellen Mond above Justin Fields, if I recall correctly. And he
The
says, P.S.
guy
Osho
who
is the worst
the
analyst of the
guy who had
game.
Jalen Hurts all the way at the bottom, had Ryan Tannehill, number 11, had Baker Mayfield, number 12. Don't get it. Don't get it. Hey, look, I don't want to crap on Chris Sims. We all have the way that we look at things, and that's fine or whatever.
Hey,
But it's just like
hit
when
rate isn't
you
100% on
at
anyone. I don't
all,
care how you could be Scott McLuhan. Your hit rate ain't 100.
at all,
Right.
at all. Like, come on, man. Like, so again, not to crap on Chris Sims, but when people start to say, well, Chris Sims said this about this guy, that you need to take it as gospel, he's got some misses and some egregious misses.
Some
Because
bad ones.
I would never have Ryan Tannehill anywhere near 12. I would never have Baker Mayfield in the 12 at all, like at this point. And then to have Jalen Hurts as far down as you did, now when you're looking at this, that top 40 quarterback list is an absolute whiff, like all the way through and through. So bad. Russell Wilson's like number 3. Christ, man. What are we even doing here?
I will never forget him putting Kellen Mond above Justin Fields. When I saw that, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, this is the guy that we think is the quarterback, Kellen Mond, the guy
Does
both
Kellen Mond even
Jason
have
and
a
I
job?
saw at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, dude.
Just
Senior Bowl MVP.
A dumpster fire because he somehow pulled it together in the second half of the game. But if you were there for the week of practice, it was awful.
Dude.
Awful.
Senior Bowl MVP. And when we were sitting in the media section, he would throw balls at people's feet and they would laugh, outright laugh. Insane behavior, man. I never understood the Kellen Mond thing ever.
Neither did I. I think I tweeted out like, oh, Kellen Mond went from being a 6th-round draft pick in my eyes to undrafted after this week. Like, I was like, this guy's not like he's not good. He's robotic.
He's not good at all. Like,
his mechanics are weird. He's zero consistency.
He's stiff
like
as a board.
He shows glimpses, but Paxton Lynch showed glimpses. Like, you can find guys who show glimpses. It's not about the glimpses. It's about the consistency. And he didn't have it. And that's just a wild trip down memory lane.
You get your ass to Mobile.
You asked me about Mobile before we hopped on here. Now
you get your ass to the Senior Bowl this year.
The memories coming back up.
That's it. You get your ass to the Senior Bowl and you get your ass to the Combine. I'm not playing with you, Brad Graham.
It's going to be another phenomenal offseason, but we're not quite there yet.
Nope.
We got to get these Dolphins out of the way. Again, you said it perfectly. It's not a must win, but it is a measuring stick game. And I think the 49er fans believe that as well. It's going to be a tough one, right? Any way you spin it. You did your score prediction already, didn't you?
27. I got a 27-21. I think the 49ers offense, as long as they continue to sustain drives, stay on the field on 3rd down, but punctuate those drives with touchdowns, put Miami in catch-up mode and keep their defense fresh. I think the game's right there in front of them. And I think that the ultimate thing that will bring everything back to the levels You could say that the Dolphins offense is more explosive. I probably wouldn't argue with you right now with that, is that their defense can be had and the 49ers will be able to do what they want to do. So I do believe 8 to 10 minute drives, finish those off on touchdowns, keep your defense fresh. The Dolphins are going to score points, but if you keep them off the field, they can't score. That's how the 49ers are going to win this game.
So it sounds like a perfect opportunity for Jordan Mason, baby. Sounds like just give him the rock.
The agenda, baby. Push it. Push it. The propaganda. Push it.
Oh, the Jordan Mason propaganda is heavy, and we are going to continue to push it because we believe it, by the way. It's not just an agenda. We do believe Jordan Mason is a capable running back. We'll see if he can be a starting caliber running back in this league moving forward. But the 49ers have depth. That's the key thing to take away from this. Potentially going to get Arik Armstead back. You lose Elijah Mitchell, but you got Jordan Mason, Tevin Coleman available. Wide receivers look healthy up until this point. Back to earlier, you picked Jalen Waddle.
They said that's Tevin Coleman. Not the Stone Cold running down.
Stone Cold.
Shout out to Randall Speed, bro, for tweeting me that.
That's funny. Hey, shout out to anyone live tweeting the show. That's freaking phenomenal. It's so perfect. Fits exactly what we were talking about earlier. But yeah, man, I think the 49ers, you did make an interesting point there with Waddle and Tyreek Hill versus Debo and Aiyuk.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have to talk about the duo of receivers that are the most complete wide receivers, I think I would have to agree that Waddle and Tyreek are the most complete duo, because Debo has been effective, but he's still being effective in kind of not a traditional wide receiver role,
offensive
right?
weapon
Would you
way.
say?
Yeah. The offensive way. That doesn't downplay his contributions in any way. Tyreek Hill is all-world fast, leads the league in all receiving yards, and he broke 1,000, I believe, within 8 games, right? And Waddle is very fast as well, too. And I do believe that, here's your second spicy take, Brandon Aiyuk's the best wide receiver on this team.
Yes.
Wide receiver. Yeah. Complete route tree. Can go up against a Jalen Ramsey and beat him in any way that he needs to. But that doesn't downplay Deebo Samuel's contributions and how he's used and how effective he is and what makes him so special, right? That doesn't mean that you can compare them apples to oranges. I wouldn't put Deebo Samuel in a spot where I would say you can compare him to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is too good off the line. Devontae Adams is too good at running routes. Devontae Adams' hands are insane. You can't do that. But that doesn't mean that downplays Deebo Samuel doing exactly what you need him to do in this offense and being amazing at it, having a season that has never been seen last season, having an unprecedented season. So for me, traditional wide receiver, I see Brandon Aiyuk routing guys up every single week. Now he drops passes in the red zone. He's got a lot of things to polish out, but he's growing, and you see it.
He is.
And again, wide receiver, offensive weapon, two different things. That's it. And I think that both need each other and both are used in the right way in this offense. Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. Just a lot of people get upset when you say Brandon Aiyuk's the best wide receiver on this team.
Do they?
Yeah. People don't like that. People don't like that because then you start now I'm disrespecting Debo and all this stuff. I know how he's being used. He is a Swiss Army knife that needs to be used in the multitude of ways that he is. You get him the ball, no matter how, he's going to make something happen. That's how special he is. But you're talking about one-on-one, win a route, give me Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, and again, this is no shot at Jimmy Garoppolo, but if Jimmy Garoppolo did have a kind of propensity to throw deep a little bit more often and look deep a little bit more often, I think Aiyuk would be even having a better year, right? Kind of like what we saw in training camp with Trey Lance. Trey Lance would uncork that thing. Like Trey Lance would be, struggle with some intermediate accuracy stuff, but like when he saw Brandon Aiyuk running deep down the field, he would let it rip and Brandon would go get it. So I agree with you. I agree. I don't think it's much of a debate for this year that Brandon Aiyuk is the wide receiver one, but that doesn't mean, Debo Samuel's a slouch in any regard. He's
No.
still getting his touches and he's still getting yards. But I think we saw that signature Debo Samuel game week 4 against the Rams. I'm not sure we've seen that explosion from Debo Samuel. I wouldn't be upset if we got it against Miami Mike and the Dolphins. I mean, for what we know, Debo Samuel, remember, he was out there having lunch with Mike McDaniels not too long after the trade stuff was picking up. I don't know. Maybe there's something there, but I would love to see Debo Samuel blow up against the Dolphins. We'll see. Let's end it on this. Who's going to be your player of the game for the 49ers? Could be offense, defense, dare I say special teams.
Oh, this is easy then if we're talking special teams and we're throwing it in there. Christ, man. You know exactly what you're doing when you say things like that too. And it's become such a talking point that it's now my brand.
Like when Mitch does something, or like when Robbie does it.
When Robbie misses a kick, everyone starts adding me. Kickers don't matter. Jason was right. If he bangs it from 50, there's people that are like, "See, get cooked, Jason." If Mitch Wishnowsky shanks a punt, people are like, "Oh wow, get rid of him. He's a 4th rounder." Jason was right. And if he puts it on the 1, get fried by the best punter in the league. So I can't have it. You know, I don't have nice things at all. Like I just get cooked no matter what when it comes to special teams. I think it's hilarious that that's my brand now. I have to just lean into it.
It is hilarious. It's pretty funny. But if you had to pick one player to stand out in this game to be the difference maker for W, who would it be?
Charvarius Ward. Charvarius Ward has to, no matter who's in front of him, whether it's Tyreek Hill, who he knows pretty well. He played with him as well, too, guys. Let's not lose that part of it either. If it's Waddle, he has to neutralize that. You have to find a way to go somewhere else with it. So now this is where D'Amico has to figure this out. You're good with leaving Charvarius where he's at with whoever is going to be on the side. He usually stays on the right side of the formation. What do you do for Lenore? We watched D'Amico Ryans in Ambry Thomas's first start against the Cincinnati Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Shade somebody over, cover 3 a little bit more than they did man. I think Ward is going to be fine on his own. That's going to be whoever he's lined up against. I have little fear of what's going to happen. It's how do you stop the other guy? And what are you going to do to it? Do you take someone and shade them under? Do you take someone and shade them over? And how does that affect to his processing, right? And are you able to get pressure with 4? Can you speed up his clock because he gets the ball out fast? So these are all the chess match that the chess match part that I'm looking for. But for me, it's Charvarius Ward.
That's a good answer. I think that's a great answer because we understand that Dolphins offense is potent and they have 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So it is going to be a great matchup. I think that's the one that I'm looking forward to. I know you're looking forward to it as well. Dolphins offense versus the 49ers defense. This is going to be a fun game, Jason. Week 13, the Dolphins, the 49ers are first in the NFC West. The whole league is starting to fall into shape. December football is coming up. Man, it's a good time to be a fan right now of football because things are heating up. Your fantasy matchups are getting down to the wire. You got like 2 weeks left to get
3
into
weeks.
the playoffs?
3 weeks for the playoffs now because of the added week, man. Week 17. Right. If you're in a fantasy league and your fantasy championship is not week 17 and it is in week 18, here's my advice: find another fantasy league to play in, please, man.
That's great advice from our guy. Was it promo code Aponte with Underdog Fantasy?
Underdog Fantasy, promo code Aponte. Make sure that you use that promo code to double your first deposit up to $100. There's pick'ems, there's daily fantasy that you can do. There is best ball drafts that you can do as well too. So shout out to Underdog Fantasy and make sure you guys use that promo code.
And what other stuff you got cooking up? You got articles, you got podcasts. Where else can people find Spicy Aponte content?
This has been a hell of a week. Everybody wants to talk about football, and I'm lucky enough that people want me to speak about it. So Monday, Bully Ball with Steph Sanchez dropped. Niners Nation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you download that and subscribe with your audio podcast, Sprint Right Option with Andrew Pasquini. Dropped that same night. I was on the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle podcast. I joined someone else, Pete Lucas, yesterday on Niner Fanatic Podcast. So check him out as well. Today, obviously, is Brad's day, so everyone else gets shut out if they have to. And tomorrow morning, 9:50 Pacific time. No, Eastern time, 6:50 Pacific time. Catch me on the morning roast with the 95.7 Game Boys.
Let's go.
So a lot of work, but look Niners Nation. I have an article coming out about what's the best storyline for this game. Put something out today, so 5 articles per week over there as well too. So we're working, man. It's a lot of work going on right now, man. It's tiring at times, but I'm just lucky enough to be able to make a living talking about this team.
Hell yeah, man. And it's awesome seeing all the work that you're doing. You're one of the hardest workers out here doing this content grind. And I mean, we're in the thick of it, man. Like, I know the content grind for the off season can have its moments. It's wild to think that just a couple months ago, we were like, man, the season's got to get here. We're tired of talking about Debo get traded. We're tired of talking about the draft. And it's week 13, man. We're going to blink and we're going to be in the playoffs. And hopefully the San Francisco 49ers are there, because Jason and I can both tell you that's the best time for 49ers content is when playoff football is around. Yeah. So make sure you're subscribed to both channels. Make sure you're following Jason everywhere. That's his @ You can find him on all social medias. I wanted to take a quick second to shout out the entire Sourdough Squad. We hit 49,000 subscribers today. That was a big number for us because, of course, we're the 49ers page. So 49 is a big number for us. So I want to shout out to all the guys. Appreciate everyone, the guys, the gals.
Can you send some of those guys over
to
like
please, my little Sourdough, go over here, bro, this way, right here.
My little 7,300 page. Like, hey guys, can you trickle over real quick? No, shout out to you, Brad. You're not only, again, I feel like I say this over and over. You are not only one of the hardest workers, smart content creators, genuinely one of the nicest guys in the world, man. That's it, man.
You, Jason.
I can't wait to see you so I can give you a hug, man.
I know it's going to be great. Hopefully sooner rather than later, by the way.
Yes. Let's figure it out.
Yes.
Playoffs.
But appreciate
NFC Championship in Philly, baby. You make your way over here. We'll drive to the game. You come stay with me. That's it's about an hour and 15 minutes. That's where I live from Philly.
I'm going to have to work it into the budget to go to some playoff games this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. We got a super chat on the way out. Let's says, Alejandro says, what I'm most terrified about is if Jimmy gets injured, unless Trey's available come playoffs, it will be interesting. This is quite the topic to end as we're getting out of here. Do you want to take the short route? Well, how do you want to handle this one?
He's not coming back.
I agree.
I would love to have him as a backup because I don't think anything of Brock Purdy. But yeah, it would be great to have him be the backup. But I mean, if this team is winning and they're rolling, you gotta roll with Jimmy, man. And having him there would be cool. But you just next year. We'll worry about that next year, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just got to roll with Jim and kind of whatever punches come your way, because even though we've seen Trey Lance, walking, doing some drills, things like that, like he could still be a ways away out from getting actually onto a field, taking hits, and doing all those different types of things again. And again, we saw how Kyle used him. He's a run, kind of like a run first quarterback, essentially. So who knows if that will lead itself to a potential re-injury, potentially, if we rush him back. We'll wait till next year. I think we'll ride with Jimmy and, for better or worse, Brock Purdy. We'll see if Brock gets in. I know it's going to be an interesting ride if he does, but I think it's hard to really look at Trey as a potential option. And I feel like both Kyle and John Lynch have said every step of the way that he's not returning this year. And again, when it comes to the quarterback, I've learned to put the tin hat to the side and just listen because they've done what they've said. So
and that's it's funny. I did a Saints podcast and he asked me, well, what's going to happen with the quarterback position? I was like, can I tell you? I have no idea. And I would not be shocked if it was any one of 4 outcomes. I was like, I think I learned my biggest lesson this offseason. Stop making predictions because we have no idea.
Yes. That's what I've learned as well. And they're already making predictions who's going to be the quarterback next year. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. It's going to be another wild offseason, Jason, but we don't got to worry about that yet. We got to worry about the playoffs coming up. But again, as always, appreciate every single one of you guys tapping in with us every Wednesday. And of course, each on our individual channels. We appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you like and subscribe to both channels. It's obligatory to say it at this point because we are YouTubers, right? Apparently, Jason. So make sure you like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully talking about another W. Any parting words for the people here, Jason?
No, enjoy this week. I do think that, again, I'll reiterate, it's not a must win. I'll use what I said about the Kansas City Chiefs game. It would be a very cool if they did win game. Best way I could put it, So, I appreciate you guys for tapping in. Appreciate you guys for all the love. And, enjoy this week, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be no shortage of things to talk about. So, I had fun. I love Wednesdays. Wednesday's my favorite day.
It's the best day. It's an easy day. We kind of flow right through it. But again, as always, grab your cookies on the way out if you stayed the whole time. Appreciate you guys. We're out of here for now. Peace until next Wednesday. Later. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to